I'll be your Toastmaster tonight. So with the club business out of the way, and it looks like our roles are set, what we'll do now is I'm just going to go down the agenda, and when I call your name, you just give a brief description of your role. It would be appreciated. So first, I'm the Toastmaster. So our first speaker is Majid. Our second speaker is going to be Maurice. And our table topics master, Donovan. Can you give us a description of your role?
Yeah, of course. It's going to be table topics with a 1 to 2 minute impromptus, basically. So I can do it 2 ways. I can actually volunteer and then I'll tell you the topic, or I'll tell you the topic and then I'll actually volunteer. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, next we're going to have our general evaluator, Diego.
That's me. I am the point person for the evaluation portion of our meeting. Not only is it important for people to step up to the lectern and take a crack at prepared speeches, it's also important to learn what good habits you have been exhibiting and what bad habits you should think about letting go when it comes to doing a prepared speech. And that is the most important responsibility of the general evaluator. Back to you, Luke.
And Diego, also have you down as the first evaluator, correct?
That's right.
Okay. And then Maurice, Lawrence, I got you as the second evaluator.
Correct.
All right, so for our timer, David Roberts.
Hi, I will be timing everyone as they speak at the podium for various lengths of time as shown on this printout. The first speaker is 4 to 6 minutes, 4 minutes being the minimum, at which point the green light will come on. At 5 minutes, we'll go to the yellow light, and at 6 minutes, the red light. And the red light means it's time to start wrapping up within 30 seconds or so if you possibly can. And if you go much beyond that, I have my own fourth category where I pick up the timer and throw it at the person. I just sort of came up with that one on my own. So if you see me start reaching, and the others, the second speaker is 2 to 3 minutes, and table topics 1 to 2 minutes, and the general evaluators and the evaluators are 2 to 3 minutes. And then afterwards, I'll report on how everyone did with their time.
All right, thank you. And the speakers and everybody can use the lectern as body armor if that happens. So we have our grammarian and our all-counter who's going to be Olivia.
Good evening, everyone. My responsibility tonight as an all-counter will be during the speeches. I will be listening for filler words like and, so, things of that nature. And I will be tallying those up and I will give a report at the end. Also, my role, the grammarian, is to listen for any misuse of the English language. I will also jot those down and give a report at the end. Our word for the day is sodality. The definition of sodality is fellowship, camaraderie, or brotherhood. To use it in a sentence would be it was a tragic loss of life that was felt throughout the sodality of the firefighters. Again, our word of the day is sodality.
All right, thanks, Olivia. Okay, so with the roles discussed, we'll go ahead and move on to our first speaker. So I remember when Majid came to the meeting the first time, and after the meeting we were speaking, and I asked if he was going to come back. You could just tell by the way he responded and said yes, that he would, and I'm really glad you did come back. So I'm looking forward to your speech tonight, and I think it will help with the sodality of the group. And I'd like to welcome Majid to the lectern.
Thank you, Luke. Evening, all fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. It's my icebreaker speech now, and I'm going to speak about myself, about my field of interest, and my goals. So let's speak about myself. I'm from Hyderabad, India. I'm from a family where education is given a lot of importance. I'm the youngest in my family, and all my brothers and sisters are graduate master level education, and I have no other option but to follow them, but in my field of interest. I did my undergrad back in India in electronics, and in order to look for further education, I came to US in Mobile, Alabama back in 06 for my master's. After completing my master's, I worked around in many companies across US, in Florida, and basically in South, some in Northeast, but for AT&T, Clearwire, Ericsson and Nokia, some part in California for Ericsson. But I'm back here in Mobile, my hometown, working for T-Mobile. So I'm happy to be back home. This is my hometown, and well, I adjusted here with my family and my wife and two kids. So let's talking about when talking about my field of interest, as I mentioned earlier. Have you ever thought how information is communicated between one port to other? Like we have Facebook, Google, YouTube, and Instagram. They use like millions and millions of bytes of space and communication between one port to other port, be a server for Yahoo in New York, or downloading devices like the cell phones or the laptops or any IoT device. So I was just to an overview of how the data was before time. The data was like analog data communicated by wired lines, and we started the communication between point to point. Later came the data was converted from analog to digital data, zeros and ones, which was a significant improvement. And then the digital data was easier to transmit over the wired lines. And later came the optical devices, and the digital data was further communicated into optical data in the light form of light, and they were transmitted through optical fiber, and that improved significant latency, the time of travel, and the time for the data to travel from point to point improved significantly. And then later on, as wireless communication matured, the data communication over electromagnetic waves over the air took a significant role, where we see many vendors like cell phone screen providers, radio FM, and many applications in wireless communication which are based on electromagnetic waves. So let's, while we talk about electromagnetic waves, I wanted to glimpse through, probably we have already gone through in our whole time, but it's an interesting topic to go over electromagnetic spectrum. The radio waves being the longest wave, there could be a mile of wavelength, and gamma rays, which are the shortest, as short as they could probably penetrate between two atoms of a molecule, as short as that. So the radio waves have many applications. They are used in radio communication, wireless communication, in the cell phone industry. The interesting fact is they're all the data is communicated over the wave, and that signal is received by the antenna. So there's a device which receives the data from a server, say, and it converts the data, modulates the data over electromagnetic wave. And the wave transmits through air and reaches to another device which has a receiver antenna, and it receives the electromagnetic waves and dissects the data by demodulating it. So this has been used in many parts of communication, but the major one, as I told you, are the wireless communication and radios and FMs. Microwaves are the same rays that we use in our microwaves for heating up food, but also used for astronomers for galaxy. Infrared have a good application for night vision goggles, where they sense the heat by the infrared, even from our body or any heat object. Very good application. Visible is that in all the spectrum, the only wave that we see is a visible wave. So the good point is objects are perceived as different colors based on which wavelength light an object can observe. So this roof is white because it observes certain wavelength and reflects everything else. So that's one of the part of visual. And ultraviolet X-rays, we kind of know gamma rays. We talked about the smaller waves, and they're so small they're used in scanning the brain and as such. So let's move on to why am I here? My stammering, my hesitation to talk to strangers or even in a little stress have limited my communication overall, observed in my life, and also limited my social circle with it. So it always bothered me how I can talk fluently in one situation when I'm more comfortable with, and in other situations with little stress, how my communication hinders. So I'm trying to learn and learn from this. How does it impact on a daily life? It's very limited impact here in US, where the culture is very good, but back in India it was significant impact. But here the major impact would be on the work. Where you are an engineer, it's manageable with a smaller team, but when you want to grow in your career as a leader, instantaneous communication would be the key. Instantaneous, bold communication would be a major aspect. So I've analyzed in my recent interviews from the feedback that I've decided to steer myself to work on my communication and my skills, and Toastmaster is one of the best avenues to pursue the level of confidence and communication, improving the communication in the bigger groups and organized communication. Going towards the goal, my goal in my career is to become a millionaire, and I've taken my first step towards it. I bought a lottery ticket. Just kidding. So my short-term goal is to learn how to pause, because that's the stress. Pause.
Wow.
And the next thing is when you pause, you brush your mind, so it gives you a breathing window and get the best possible communication out, and you can cool your stress. So my short-term goal is to learn how I can pause and don't feel stressed. The pause is okay. And my long-term goal, as we have talked about, is more confident in my speech, able to communicate precise and be loud and clear, and observe my feedback for myself, say how many filler words I'm using and how I can articulate it more appropriately. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Majid. I think I said in one of my speeches that there's no negatives for being here. So I know that you're going to make great strides towards the things that you want to fix, because I know I have. All right, so our next speaker doesn't need an introduction. We know him as the man behind the camera, who sits on y'all's right but my left. And he is a distinguished Toastmaster, and I'm looking forward to his speech tonight as well. And I'd like to welcome Maurice to the lectern, and he's going to be giving a toast to an honorable Toastmaster.
Fellow Toastmasters and fellow Toastmasters, tonight I am proud to honor someone who has been in Toastmasters for a very long time. This person has been very influential, not only to myself, but to many other members who have heard his voice at Toastmasters functions. This person has been a member of Toastmasters on and off for over 20 years, or in other words, as he's been quoted, as I quote him as saying, I've been a Toastmaster since the last century. So this Toastmaster has been influential within this sodality for those many years. And it has been proven to be a great speaker and a great leader, and has performed many speeches. We've seen him perform many speeches in my case, and in his case, he's performed many speeches under the old system as well as under the pathway system. Not only that, he's exhibited great leadership skills in the club and outside the club. For example, as a pathways guide, he's been to several clubs around the area to do presentations on pathways. And also, he's been proven to be a good evaluator. And he typically uses what is called the sandwich system, which means during the evaluation, he would give good points about the speech that someone made, and then in the middle, we'll give some points where the speaker can improve. And then lastly, again, he will give good points that the speaker has made. And some of the favorite things that he does, besides doing pocket speeches when we don't have two prepared speeches, is also doing table topics. So during my time here, he is one of two people who have been members around the time that I joined. So without further ado, without further fanfare, I now propose a toast to Captain Lawrence Crompton.
Here, here.
Mr. Toastmaster.
All right, thank you, Maurice. So now with the toast of the night out of the way, and a great toast it was. So we will move on to our next area of the meeting, and it's going to be table topics. I'd like to welcome our table topics master, Donovan O'Malley.
Okay. Do we want to go? Okay, Diego. What's your favorite joke?
Donovan, I want to thank you very much for yours and the rest of this group's sodality in putting up with one of my greatest weaknesses, not only in private speech, but in public speech, and that is humor and jokes. So I just want to thank, first of all, Donovan for inspiring me to expand my horizons and try to address a particular weakness of mine, which is a joke. With that said, my favorite joke it doesn't help that, first of all, I'm not very comfortable with my sense of humor among private speech. So to be asked to share a joke in a public setting is only tougher, and therefore, out of respect for everyone's time, I'm going to have to say, I'm sorry I can't share a good joke with you on a spot like this. Fortunately, though, I see the green light is up, so I will relinquish the lectern back to Donovan. And again, thank you so much for trying to take me out of my comfort zone, but hopefully next time I'll do a better job. Back to you, Donovan.
That was a good joke.
Thank you.
Do we want to volunteer next?
Yes.
Okay, Maurice.
I'd like to complete his table topic.
Oh, there's Paul.
Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, the question I was posed, what is my favorite joke? Well, I wouldn't say that this is a favorite joke, but this is one that is memorable, and this is borrowed from a Russian comedian. Actually, he was a Soviet comedian because he came to the United States while it was still the Soviet Union. But his name is Yakov Smirnoff, and he used to do Best Western commercials. And one of the favorite jokes of his during the Best Western commercial. And I think I used it once or twice when I checked into a hotel, and I don't think they understood what I said. But when I checked in, I told them, well, when I go to other hotels, I would have reservations, but I would decide to stay anyway. So, Mr. Topic Master.
That was really inspiring, thank you. Moving on to mindfulness. Roberts, your topic is, what activity are you most excited about?
See school. Pockets.
That question.
Fellow Toastmasters, I have been asked, what activity am I really excited about? Well, to maintain the soliloquy of our meeting, then I'm not going to spend as much time talking about my favorite topic as I would if I had unlimited availability. But the one thing that I enjoy more than anything else is the ability to work on the water. Ever since I was a very small child, 10 years old, I decided that I wanted to work on the water. And so when I grew up and was able to start commercial fishing and then eventually get licensed and do a whole lifetime of work on the water, and now I get to teach others how to work on the water. And I can't say that I really worked any of that time. It was such an enjoyable experience. And so for those of you starting out your life in the work world, I would highly recommend finding something that you enjoy so much that you don't even consider it as work. And again, that's going to increase your soliloquy with everyone you're working with. Mr. Topic.
I just want to say that even though that you might not be aware of this, to me, you teach me how to become a better speaker and someone that wants to be better and the future. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Who would like to go next? Okay. What's your favorite song?
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. My question is, what is my favorite song? And that, I think, for a lot of people is a really difficult question to answer. Throughout my life, there's been different bands that I've fallen in love with. And when I was a kid, Styx, if you remember them, I loved Styx. Everything like Come Sail Away, couldn't get enough of that. But as an adult, my taste have kind of changed, and currently I actually like electronic dance music, which a lot of people would find odd because I'm sort of an introverted civil engineer. But there's an artist named Grimes, and she's got some just incredibly gifted things she's done. And one of the things about Grimes that amazes me, I've seen some of her interviews, and she talks about some of the best music that she's ever produced came from the most hurtful things in her life. When she's been hurt the most is when she's really found where she can express herself the best. And some of the songs that she's written have just resonated with me. It's just been an amazing thing. So I try to learn from that and learn that even though I'm not an artist, I'm not by any means a musician, believe me, you would not want to hear me try to sing. But there's something there, as an artist or as an engineer even, there's something I can get from that it's okay to experience hurt in my life, and if I can grow from it and become a better person. So thank you for the opportunity.
Since we have 5 minutes, I'm gonna do one last one.
I'm sorry, I told you wrong. We have one more minute. That's my fault. 7:15.
No, it's 5 minutes.
7:20.
Oh, do I have the wrong day?
Oh, what, no, this one,
7:15, yeah.
yeah, 7:15, yep.
I think we do one more. Yeah.
Yeah, one more, yeah, one more. Yeah. Wow, I don't know how that changed.
Who would want to volunteer next? There you
No, Olivia should go. 'Cause I already went.
go. Okay.
I vote Olivia.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I second that.
Okay.
Be nice.
I see your report.
Yeah, I didn't understand that.
That's good.
What skills would you want to enhance as a fluent speaker?
Fellow Toastmasters, what skills would I like to enhance as a public speaker? I think if I had to sum it up, it would be to be more well-rounded, to be able to talk on any topic, which requires you to have a more global, I guess, understanding or knowledge base. For example, things that that are dear to me, family, women, people as a whole, empowerment, improvement, self-awareness, how to become a better you. Those are things that are so easy to me. But I remember Lawrence piggybacking off of someone else's speech, and he got up and did a whole nother speech about maritime, and I was like, I have no idea what he's talking about. so it was very enlightful, very educational, and some things that we take for granted. So if I had to choose what I would like to do to become a better public speaker, is just to have a more global, well-rounded understanding, and hopefully that will increase the sodality of us all.
Thank you. I shall conclude the current topics portion of these of this. So I'm going to return to the head of the sodality, Green.
All right, thank you, Donovan. Table topics are some people's favorites, like Lawrence, and they're definitely not mine. That's why I voted for Olivia to go. Okay, so speeches are always important, and impromptu speeches are always important, but just as important is our evaluations of both. So I'd like to welcome our general evaluator, Diego.
Thank you, Luke. Before, yeah, there's nothing. Oh well, I'll do my before I give my general evaluation portion of the meeting. We should hear first from the speech evaluators, and I am the first evaluator, and I had the great pleasure and privilege to evaluate Majid's first icebreaker speech. Majid, I have to say it is remarkable that your icebreaker speech, I did not see a consistent reliance upon your notes. I feel many years ago when I did my first icebreaker speech, I remember that I frequently was looking down at the lectern and consistently having to look at my notes every now and then. But I could see that you had practiced, and at least for, I want to say the first 3/4 of the speech, you were not necessarily looking at us, but I could tell that you were not looking at the lectern and consistently relying on your notes. It was clear that you had a great understanding of the electromagnetic spectrum, and you had a lot of great pieces of information to share with us about how it is applied in our daily lives. So I thought that was a very good habit that I would like to see you continue to exercise in your future Pathways speeches. I do want to recommend, though, I felt what took away from you communicating effectively to everyone tonight was I felt you were speaking consistently at a very rapid rate. So I would encourage, and this is a problem that I have too, I would strongly encourage at the next speech that you give, think about slowing things down. And I think probably what might have prompted you to want to speak quickly was you had a lot of ideas that you wanted to share with everyone, but quality over quantity for your next speeches, I would recommend. Think about the main big ideas you want to share in your next speech, and make sure you speak at a slower rate to make sure everyone hears what you're trying to communicate. I think another remarkable thing that I found in your icebreaker was you actually stepped away from the lectern and you were walking back and forth along the lectern. You never felt married to the lectern. You never felt like you were attached to the lectern at the hip. I think that was a very good sign that you were aware that it's important to step away from the lectern and to let everyone see your entire body and use your entire body to communicate your main ideas. I think one shortcoming I would like to encourage you to work on next time is your eye contact. I felt that you were too nervous to make contact with anyone in particular, or when you were looking up away from the lectern, you were looking up in the back of the room. And I didn't feel that you were specifically speaking to us sometimes. So that is another piece of advice I wanted to share. But finally, I think a really great sign of your prepared speech talent was specifically when you went over how a signal is being transmitted. And you walked across the lectern and you signaled with your hands, this is the data tower that is receiving the signal. So I think you have an uncanny ability for using your gestures to support what ideas you want to communicate. So that is a really great piece of advice that I think you should continue to exercise in the future. That concludes my general evaluation of Majid's speech, and I'm looking forward to the next one as well as everyone in this room. Now let us welcome up to the lectern Lawrence, who did a great service of evaluating Maurice's speech. Let's give him a warm welcome.
All right, I really enjoyed the toast that Maurice gave. He really toasted a wonderful member of the Toastmasters Club, and I'm so proud to be part of that organization and be part of this speech, actually. So I really enjoyed it. I thought he did a good job of giving this speech and sharing with us the various different things that he felt were a value from the person that he was giving a toast to. And I think that's important when you're giving a toast. It's like, yeah, he's a great guy, everybody loves him, yeah. But in reality, what he did was he gave concrete things that were very valuable of that person's, in his opinion, things that were very valuable about the person he was toasting. Now, if I had one thing that I would recommend that he would try to change, would especially be when he was chasing the audience away. Okay, when you're giving a speech and you're kind of pushing the audience away with your hands, it's like a subliminal message that maybe, they need to sit down and be quiet or, something like that. So the one habit that he has that I think you can change is that you use the same motion quite considerably. And you only change it a little bit by sometimes pushing us away and sometimes, presenting us with an offering of your gracious voice and whatever. So, if you give people with hands out, that's offering, right? If you're giving hands towards them, it's kind of pushing them away. That's the only thing I really saw that I thought would be something that you can kind of look at. When you review your speech, you'll notice that the whole speech you were going like this or like this. So that's what you would change. Now, what I really did, another thing that I really enjoyed was that as he was giving his speech, he didn't stand behind the lectern. He came out from the lectern. He gave everyone a clear understanding of what he was trying to, why he was trying to toast this person, to honor this person because of the achievements that he's done and the things that Maurice felt were the best. So not using a little bit of his stage space is always a valuable thing. And I thought that was another thing that he did well on this speech. So, I guess we're at the Mr. General Evaluator. Yeah. Back where I was.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Lawrence and Diego, for providing the evaluation portion of their prepared speeches. Now we will hear from the timers report. Let's hear from David first.
Hi. Our two speakers, Majid should be between 4 and 6 minutes. Majid had 7 minutes and 32 seconds. But I thought you did very well too for your first
I was
time.
trying to hide between, about to see that going on.
I find when I'm giving a speech, I worry about having enough time or having time, that I'm not going to have enough time, but I end up going over. So I think that's pretty normal, especially in the beginning. And Maurice was between 2 and 3 minutes, and he went for 3 minutes and 18 seconds. For the table topics, we had 5 speakers. We started with Diego at 1 minute and 21 seconds, and all of the table topics should be between 1 and 2 minutes, basically. Maurice was 46 seconds. Lawrence was 1 minute and 32 seconds. Myself, David, I was 1 minute and 41 seconds. Olivia was 1 minute and 2 seconds. That was the 5 table topics. For the evaluators, the first evaluator, Diego, evaluating Majid, went for 3 minutes and 39 seconds, where 2 to 3 minutes is the given time, so just a little over. And Lawrence went for 3 minutes and 16 seconds in evaluating Maurice.
Thanks, David. And Olivia, can we hear the odd counter grammarian report too, please?
Yes, I'm happy to present that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people used the word of the day. Luke, you used it once. Olivia once. Maurice once. Diego once. And Lawrence, you used it twice. But I want to make sure that you note that you said sodality instead of sodality. I think you were mixing soliloquy with sodality here. But you used it in the right, but you used it in the right context. So the definition of the word was definitely there, but you used it as a qui instead of a t. So anywho, yeah, like soliloquy.
Yeah, I know that too. Thank you.
Okay. Abdul, I'm not your evaluator, but I must advise you that I was overjoyed with your speech. And then for anyone that has English as a second language, correct?
Yep.
Yes, I think it was admirable. You did a great job, and I was well impressed. So you did use the word about 5 times, said twice and twice. But again, for someone who may have to sometimes still search for the right English word to use, I think that was amazing, and I was well impressed. At anyone that has a second language, because that's in my bucket list. One day I will speak fluently 2 or 3 languages. So I'm always envious of someone who can do 2 languages. Your grammarian, again, English as a second language, I really couldn't get anything. I noticed that your adverbs, able to communicate precisely, and you said able to communicate precise. So you missed your Lee on the end a couple of times, but again, way better than some of us who have English as a first language. Maurice, you had no filler words and of course, no misuse of the English language. Table topics, Diego, you had no filler, no misuse. Maurice, same thing. Lawrence, no fillers or misuse. David, you had no misuse. You had one but it was so quick until it would be probably hard to pick it up if you would have listened to yourself or watched it
I knew it
again.
when I said it.
You did? Okay. As soon as you barely, it barely rolled off your tongue. So awesome job. And Olivia, you said one time. And that's it. Oh, Mary, yeah, and no misuse of the English language. Okay, that's it. That's
I
all.
said the word that they wanted. I said the word that they wanted.
You did? Oh, I'm sorry. Crap, I'm sorry I missed that. Okay, I will make sure I put it in my report. Okay. That's it. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thanks, Olivia. Okay, now we're going to wrap up with just a few comments I had. First of all, thank you all so much for using EasySpeak. I think we had 8, I printed out 8 agendas because there were 8 people RSVPing. So this is a great habit that we need to continue, keeping people on the same page and filling up all the agenda roles. So this is a great habit that I want to see us continue in the future. Excellent work on that front. We started a minute late, but that was on me. I was just waiting for the noise to die down for a bit. But other than that, I think we ran a meeting really well. I think it was an exemplary meeting, and I'm hoping that we can continue this type of quality of the meeting in the future. And that is going to be my general evaluation of the meeting for tonight. And now I will relinquish the lectern back to our Toastmaster, Luke.
There you
I want to add one thing as the word of the day. It was Lawrence's suggestion that we start to put the word on the lectern with the hopes that it will bring more people to use it. And since I've been secretary, this is the first time where 6 people have used the word of the day. So hats off and our honor to Lawrence for that suggestion, because apparently it works.
So I second that. I was sitting over there tonight and I was like, I don't think I've ever heard the group use the word of the day so many times.
So many times.
So
So
a lot of
awesome.
times you don't even hear it once. So,
Right.
yeah, I think it's a great idea too. Okay, so now that my reign as Toastmaster is coming to an end tonight, I just want to say it was a great meeting. It really was. I really enjoyed those speeches. Majid, I really did enjoy your speech, man. Like, you moved around the lectern more than I ever do in all my speeches. So, and you didn't hardly use your notes, which I find fascinating because they're definitely my crutch. So, yeah, I thought you did a great job. And with that, I'll turn it back over to our president to conclude the meeting.
Thank you, Luke. Thank you, everyone, for pulling their weight today and assisting with the important roles of tonight. Again, a big thank you to Maurice and Majid for putting in the time to prepare for these prepared speeches. Donovan, again, thank you so much for thinking up of really interesting and unique tabletopist questions. And hopefully next time we'll do a better job of answering mine. But that, I feel like that has, I think it was a good meeting again tonight. And let's take this opportunity to assign some of the, go ahead, Lawrence, what do you have to share?
We still have some time. Does anyone have a educational overview?
I do.
Oh, we have 2.
Okay, mine is brief, so, I mean, if there was time for him to get his in, that'd be fine.
Okay, then let's have Donovan go first.
Sorry if I
Okay.
skipped that. That was my fault.
That's right.
Yeah.
There wasn't any indication, well, let's vote.
During the meeting, I actually found something, and the recent Toastmasters edition, and that's why I bought it. So there was a couple of things that I saw that was interesting that we can learn from as well. So This article is basically what to be more likable. 1, being interesting. 2, being transparent. 3, being generous and finding similarities. By being interesting, be more and more caring, relevant, and compelling stories to draw people in, just as, like, I would suggest that I would start off with a story at the beginning of the speech to help to expound on what you just said later as a background of what that really is. Second was being transparent. It says, it's hard to be likable if someone thinks you're hiding something. Like when someone is like stuck to the left on this, like always looking at the notes. You don't want to do that because that is drawing the attention away from you. You want to be more like out here or do some hand gestures. Be more active like Normates. That's why he's so successful right now. The third point, being generous. No one likes a bagel. Make others feel valued by using different ways, different variants of tone in your speech. It will help the audience to know, are you mad, are you angry, are you sad, are you depressed, are you excited? It all requires around that. It's always the basis for you even can get up here is first you got to take care of yourself as a speaker rather than the audience itself. Because by preparing yourself, it's like preparing the audience as well. The fourth and the final one, finding similarities. Identify what you have in common with others and which creates a bond. By bonding is connecting. Connecting is speaking. Speaking is Toastmasters. Without Toastmasters, we would not be have a systematic way of living off of those things. Without doing that, you have the basis that you have. Like everyone has that. And all the basis that you have is the basis of yourself. And one more thing, one of the biggest thing that I observed is that you have to want to be likable as well, rather than being likable. Because without learning, you won't know. One is to ask questions. Asking questions is a good way of starting a speech and ending a speech by having the audience to think first and last. It just helps them to have the idea it can be preached off as well. The second is be present. Put your phone away and look people in the eye. Truly listen and focus on the conversation. Because the truth is, a speech is a conversation. Even that you might think it's just, you might think it's just something that you have to do. All of this that we do right here is helping us to be molded into becoming a part of the conversation. The third point is people's names. It helps to emphasize what's going on. Like if I'm talking about privilege and education, I would say Malala, because he is a huge activist of it. She even got shot right here in the diagram because she's a woman and she was going to school. How would you feel that if that was you? The same thing with Katniss in the movie, The Hunger Games. She had the courage to stand up. Even though that she didn't physically stand up, but what she has done throughout the books help herself, but also help everyone else to have a realization to not be afraid, just step up and use the foot and say this is not right. We have to have change. The very final one. Smile and be friendly. See, without smiling, you're not engaging the audience until you speak. And by doing that, it helps people to actually understand what's in your head, but also understand what you're not saying. You have to be confident. Without being confident in what you're saying, y'all will feel unconfident. Just think of all those things I said, and all the examples that I said. And one thing that I want y'all to learn from you is to use all these examples, use these steps to make yourself a better speaker. Thank you.
Donovan, thank you so much for evaluating and staying on top of the Toastmasters magazine and looking for gold nuggets of information that help us all out. Maurice, do we have time for you to share?
Yes.
Let's welcome up to lecture.
All right, fellow Toastmasters, a few months ago, I did a presentation on moments of truth, mainly on what moments of truth was, and the 6 different moments of truth. Tonight, I would like to assign the 6 moments of truth, and I would like to assign them to an officer. There are 4 officers present tonight. I'll do the first 4, do 4 of them to the officers, and then the other 2 to other members. But you can team up with someone. So we have more than 12 people in the club, so we can team up with someone to go over the moments of truth, and I'll email these out to go over your moments of truth, and then between now and the middle of December, just do a brief presentation on how the club can improve on this moment of truth. So at this time, I would like to assign the moments of truth, and there are 6. First impressions is the first one. Membership orientation is the next one. Fellowship, variety, and communication is the next one. Program planning and meeting organization is the next one. Membership strength, and then achievement recognition.
Do we have the first one and 2?
First impressions is the first moment of truth, and membership orientation is the second moment of truth.
I can do the first impressions.
That's what I wanted. Okay, look at that.
Okay.
President.
Okay, membership orientation, fellowship, variety, and communication, program planning and meeting organization.
Fellowship, right.
Okay, that's for Olivia.
I want to tell you what it is first.
Okay.
Fellowship, variety, and
Communication.
communication. Is that 3 different things or 2 different things? Is it fellowship, variety?
Well, it's one subject, but it's 3 parts.
Fellowship, variety,
Okay, for example, membership, greet guests and make them feel welcome.
Oh, yeah.
The Vice President of Education regularly plans enjoyable, dynamic educational programs. The club enjoys regularly scheduled social events.
Okay.
So those are the main points of that.
Fellowship, variety, and communication.
So you want that one?
Enjoyable events.
Yes.
Did they ever come up with anything on Christmas?
I haven't heard an email from Brandon just yet, but I should reach out to him
We'll
again.
find out. It's getting late.
Okay, between I guess Luke, you can pick between membership orientation, membership strength, planning, program planning, and meeting organization, or achievement recognition.
Program planning.
Sounds like you.
Okay, and again, I'll email these out.
That's what you do it every day, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Well, instead of me picking one, I'll let two others pick one. Would you like to pick one, Lawrence? Between membership orientation, membership strength, and achievement recognition.
Whatever anybody else doesn't do, I can do any and all of these.
Okay, well, I tend to be the last one to pick one, so.
Okay, so, yeah, doesn't matter.
Strength.
Membership orientation.
Okay, membership orientation.
Probably gonna be the one that people like the least, so I'll take it, get it out of the way.
Okay.
You'll make it interesting.
I'll make it interesting. So that's gonna be our educational overview?
Yes, for the next, until the middle of December.
All right.
And then between David and Majid, which either one of you two, there's membership strength and achievement recognition. So whichever one you pick, I'll pick the last one from myself.
But you said you wanted.
If you guys wanna do it. If you don't wanna.
Yeah, I'm the last.
We'll
yeah.
pass it
I
on.
mean, I'll take one of the last two, and one of those two can take one of the.
If they don't like to do it, we can always pass it off on some of the other members who aren't
Okay.
here.
What's
today.
membership strength about?
Membership strength is maintain a minimum of 20 or more members, work to retain members, actively promote your club in the community or within the sponsored organization, continually plan varied and exciting club meetings, recognize Toastmasters who sponsor new members, participate regularly in membership building programs.
Okay, I can take that.
So this is what, a 2 to 3 minute speech? A presentation, not a speech?
Yes, and then if you pick a partner, you can spend, and it's going to be awkward because I know everyone's not going to be here at the same time,
9 to 32.
but you can discuss, you can spend time, I guess, through email or in person discussing it, and then come up with a presentation of how the club can improve in those areas.
And you're gonna send us an email about what our particular,
Yeah, I want to send this whole moments of truth.
okay. And then label it with who's doing what.
Yes, I'll do that, yes. So I'll take the last one, achievement recognition. The last one that wasn't picked. So I'll email it to each one of you, and then you can pick a partner because we have more than 12. So there's someone available to be picked who you could work with on it. Mr. President.
Thank you for keeping us up to date and fulfilling the responsibility of doing moments of truth for the Toastmasters group. If there is no other pressing club business, then I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.
1 minute, sorry, 2 minutes.